the forest falls eerily silent. The rhythmic pounding in his chest becomes the only sound, amplified in the unnatural stillness. His foot catches on a hidden root, and he falls hard onto the forest floor. Rising to his knees, he sees it, a monolithic, stone structure, massive and moss-covered, half hidden beneath encroaching vines. A wave of cold washes over him, making the hair on his arms stand up despite the humid air. Each exhale forms a ghostly cloud, hanging in the dusk's dim light. Curiosity pulls him closer. His fingers brush the worn carvings etched into the stone, their patterns intricate yet disturbingly familiar. Though he doesn't know the symbols' meanings, a deep sense of déjà vu creeps over him. His grandmother's voice echoes in his memory, her tales of shadow people, of forbidden thresholds that once crossed would never release those who entered. Could these markings be those very warnings, hidden in plain sight for those willing or foolish enough to look? Faint whispers creep into his ears, soft at first, almost imagined. The sound is steady, rhythmic, like a chant, yet the words are utterly foreign. They tug at him, pulling his attention deeper into the carvings, as though the stone itself is alive, urging him to listen. He strains to understand, but the meaning remains elusive, only intensifying his inexplicable need to uncover the source. Glancing over his shoulder, he sees the forest shrouded in darkness far deeper than it should be. The shadows aren't static, they twist and shift unnaturally. The whispers grow louder, beckoning him forward, but as he turns back toward the structure, they abruptly stop. The silence returns, suffocating, broken only by his own uneven breathing. It's as if the forest holds its breath, waiting for his next move. He hesitates, his mind a war zone of instinctual fear and unrelenting curiosity. The pull of the whispers, the connection to his grandmother's warnings, the weight of the carvings, all press on him. He knows that stepping inside might lead to something irrevocable, yet turning back feels equally unbearable. The stone doorway looms before him, and he feels the choice tighten like a vice around his heart. With hesitant steps, he crosses the threshold. The air inside feels heavy, thick with an almost tangible presence. Shadows no longer simply drift. They stretch, distort, and seem to watch his every move. As his eyes adjust to the gloom, faint glows emerge from the carvings on the walls. It's as though the very stone is speaking, urging him to understand its ancient, forgotten message. The carvings match his grandmother's stories too perfectly. Who built this place? Why did they hide it so well? Why does it feel as though the whispers know him, calling him not as a stranger but as someone meant to be here? The questions gnaw at him, driving him further into the chamber. This is no ordinary ruin. It feels alive, pulsating with something that defies logic and time. The deeper he ventures, the colder it becomes. The chill isn't just around him. It seeps into his very bones, slowing his movements, clouding his mind. Shadows stretch long fingers across the walls, shifting when he isn't looking. The beam from his flashlight flickers, and each brief moment of darkness reveals hints of motion, figures that vanish when light returns. He presses on, driven by a mix of dread and determination. When he steps outside, the forest no longer feels the same. The air is heavier, the darkness deeper, the whispers closer. He knows he's not alone. Unseen figures lurk at the edges of his vision, always just out of reach. The whispers are no longer just sounds. They feel like a summons, a command urging him forward. He realizes he has come too far to turn back now. Something within the forest is waiting, and whether he is ready or not, he must face what lies ahead. A teacher known for his quiet diligence begins to feel the monotony of his life, weighing him down. Each day mirrors the one before, teaching, marking papers, and going home to a lonely room filled with textbooks. His dreams, once vivid, have dulled. Seeking more, he turns his attention to local legends, hoping to rediscover the thrill of uncovering something extraordinary. The tales of shadow people captivate his imagination. These aren't the stories taught in schools, but ones buried in dusty books and whispered by older generations. He spends hours in the town archives, poring over faded journals and half-ruined texts. Neglecting his usual duties, he grows consumed by a desire to learn every detail about the mysterious figures said to disappear into the darkness. He approaches the town's elders, eager to hear first-hand accounts. One man, frail but sharp-eyed, speaks in hushed tones of friends who ventured into the forest and never returned. Others recall whispers of dark shapes glimpsed at the edge of firelight. The teacher listens intently, piecing together fragments of old stories. Though the elder's warnings are clear, his curiosity only deepens. The forest looms large in local superstition. Few dare to venture beyond its outermost trees. Parents tell children to stay away, spinning frightening tales to keep them safe. Those who vanish are never seen again, their absence explained by the belief that they've become part of the shadow realm. Despite these fears, the teacher cannot shake the pull to explore further. The stories of shadow people vary, but one thread remains consistent. Those who linger too long in the darkness become part of it. They lose their humanity, replaced by something strange and otherworldly. This thought both intrigues and unsettles him. What is it that draws these people into the shadows? Could there be truth to the legend? He resolves to find out. In the archives, he uncovers a long-forgotten diary. Its yellowed pages tell of a woman's desperate search for her brother, who disappeared into the forest one night. Her entries grow increasingly frantic. She writes of seeing shadowy figures that seemed alive, with movements deliberate and purposeful. The final entry ends abruptly. He became one of them. He lives in the shadows now. The sister's story haunts him. Her despair is palpable, her warnings chilling. He wonders what she truly saw, and whether her brother might have been drawn to something hidden deep within the forest. Her final words, etched in ink that has faded over the years, remain burned into his mind. Beware the shadows. The townspeople urge him to let the stories lie. They call the diary cursed and warn that many have disappeared after reading its pages. But he dismisses their fears as mere superstition. To him, the warnings only heighten his curiosity. He decides to follow the clues, no matter the danger. Using the diary and some half-burnt maps found in the archives, he plots a route toward the forest's heart. Each mark on the map feels like a step closer to solving the mystery. He knows the risks, but can't resist the pull of the unknown. Determined, he sets out to uncover the truth behind the legend of the shadow people. Armed with a flashlight and the diary, he ventures into the forest. The trees seem to close in around him as he walks. The stillness is oppressive, broken only by the sound of his own footsteps and the beating of his heart. Despite the fear prickling at the edges of his mind, he takes one step after another, disappearing deeper into the shadows. With a diary clutched in one hand and a flashlight in the other, he moves deeper into the forest. The faint whispers he thought he left behind grow clearer. He pauses to glance at the worn pages. The symbols match carvings he glimpsed earlier. With each step, the trees feel more enclosing, their gnarled branches reaching out like fingers. He cannot turn back now. Something compels him forward, urging him to follow the clues, to uncover what lies ahead. He stumbles across markings etched into the bark of an ancient tree. They look ceremonial, patterns spiraling outward, interwoven with figures that seem half human, half shadow. The etchings pulse faintly, as though responding to his presence. He runs his fingers over the carvings, their grooves deep, their meaning unknown. They whisper a past long buried, a ritual lost to memory yet not forgotten by the forest. The forest floor rises unevenly, roots giving way to stone. He trips on a moss-covered slab, landing hard. Brushing away leaves, he reveals the outline of what was once a doorway, now choked by time and decay. The stones beneath him are weathered, worn smooth by countless years, yet they hum faintly under his touch. He senses that people once gathered here, their presence echoing faintly in the still air. From nowhere voices rise. They start as soft murmurs, blending with the wind, but grow louder with each step. Some are plaintive, pleading, others sharp and commanding. He turns his head, searching for their source, but finds nothing but shadows. The voices pull him in, multiple directions, threatening to drown out his own thoughts. Yet still, he moves forward, each step heavier than the last. As dusk settles into night, the shadows stretch unnaturally. The beam from his flashlight falters, the darkness pushing back. Shadows flicker and shift even when he stands still. They reach toward him, enveloping him for a moment before pulling away. He feels a chill run down his spine, the cold wrapping around him like a warning. The forest shadows have come alive, defying the very light he carries. A low archway reveals itself between twisted roots. The ground slopes downward, and he hesitates. The opening is dark, silent, uninviting. The whispers grow faint, as though waiting for him to make a choice. He kneels to peer inside, his light, revealing a circular space lined with stone. The chamber calls to him without words. He feels it pulling at his very core, an unspoken invitation he cannot decline. Inside the chamber, the air is heavier, stifling. Scorched stones form a ring on the floor, their edges blackened as if from a fire that burned too hot, too long. Scattered around the room are remnants of past explorers, shreds of cloth, a rusted compass, and a knife, its blade dulled and broken. He picks up a tattered bag and sifts through its contents. Notes, scribbled hastily, mention an inevitable fate and shadows claiming their own. One fragment catches his eye. A torn piece of parchment, its edges singed, bears a few hastily written words. Do not speak the chant. Once begun, it cannot be undone. Beneath it, a faint sketch of figures standing in a circle around a central figure. The page trembles, in his hand as if alive, warning him against what's to come. He places it back gently, but the message stays etched in his mind. The voices return. This time, they are distinct. Some call his name, soft and pleading. Others shout warnings, their tone sharp and urgent. A deeper voice, one that resonates in his chest, speaks without words, filling his mind with a single command. Stay. Learn. Become. The air vibrates with their presence, as if the room itself is breathing, urging him to choose. As he turns to the chamber's far end, he sees it. A humanoid form, cloaked in darkness, stands motionless. It does not speak, does not move. He steps forward, but the figure fades before he can reach it. He spins, searching, only to find the shadows now closer, wrapping around the walls, closing the distance between them and him. A shallow pool of water rests at the chamber's center, undisturbed, yet glowing faintly. He leans closer and sees his reflection. It shifts. His face, once familiar, is now blurred at the edges, melting into the darkness. He blinks, hoping it's a trick of the light, but the distortion remains. His reflection stares back with hollow eyes, its mouth forming a silent warning. Returning to the forest above, he finds it changed. The trees seem to sway without wind, their branches curling toward him. Shadows flit between trunks, moving too quickly to be animals, too silent to be human. The forest feels alive, breathing, its presence pressing against him from all sides. He feels it watching, waiting. Every step forward grows harder. The air presses against his chest. His limbs feel heavy, as though something unseen holds him back, the whispers crescendo, shouting in his ears. He struggles, his breath ragged, but his resolve remains firm. Each step is a battle, yet he cannot stop now. He feels a pull that goes beyond curiosity. It is as if the forest itself wills him forward. He pauses, standing at the edge of the darkness. His mind screams at him to turn back, yet his feet move of their own accord. He crosses into the unknown, leaving behind doubt and fear. The moment he steps forward, the forest feels different, as though it recognizes his choice. There is no turning back. The darkness around him deepens, and he feels the weight of countless unseen eyes. The forest is no longer just a collection of trees. It is a world unto itself, alive and aware. The whispers fade into a steady hum, as if the shadows themselves are waiting, poised to reveal their secret. With one final step, he plunges deeper into the world of shadows, his heart pounding as the darkness swallows him whole. With each step, the ground slopes downward. The air grows damp and cool. A faint glow from his flashlight reveals a cavern-like chamber, its edges worn smooth by time. At the center lies a ring of blackened stones, charred as though a fire long ago burned fiercely there. The space feels heavy, weighted by an unspoken presence. He approaches the stones, drawn to their dark allure, but something in his gut warns him to tread carefully. The walls surrounding the stones are etched with faded carvings. As his light passes over them, their patterns match the cryptic symbols from the diary. He traces a sequence with his finger, muttering the phrases he remembers. The words seem to hum, faint at first, then louder in his mind. Though their meaning remains a mystery, the rhythm compels him to continue. He knows he's on the verge of something profound and possibly dangerous. The whispers return, louder now, clearer. They're no longer random murmurs. They speak his name. The sound isn't external. It vibrates inside his skull, commanding his attention. He turns his head, expecting to see someone there, but the cavern is empty. Each repetition of his name is more urgent, more insistent. The shadows themselves seem to press against him, growing bolder with each moment. From the darkest corner of the chamber, a figure emerges. It's humanoid, but featureless, a being composed entirely of shadow. Its presence fills the room, both magnetic and terrifying. The figure doesn't speak, yet its intent is clear. It doesn't need words. He feels the pull, the overwhelming urge to approach. Every instinct screams for him to turn away, but his legs carry him closer. The shadow leader conveys a truth that chills him to his core. Those who vanish from the forest don't die, they transform. They become part of the shadow realm, a dimension existing alongside the living. In this shadow realm, they gain abilities beyond human comprehension, strength, speed, a strange awareness of the world's fabric. But these gifts come at a cost. The transformation strips away individuality, leaving only a collective presence, a hive mind that serves the realm's enigmatic purpose. He realizes the full extent of the price. What makes him unique, his thoughts, his memories, his very self, would be replaced by the will of the shadows. The shadow realm offers power, but at the expense of everything he holds dear. He would no longer be himself. He would become part of a vast, unfeeling collective, losing his humanity in the process. The leader presents him with two options. He can leave now, carrying only faint memories of what he's seen, or he can embrace the change. If he chooses transformation, He'll gain access to the Shadow Realm's immense power, but he'll cease to be the person he once was. If he leaves, the shadows will release him, but only for a price he may not be willing to pay. Fear grips him, yet curiosity gnaws at his resolve. As he hesitates, the change begins. His hand, once solid, starts to fade. The edges blur, dark tendrils stretching outward like smoke. His reflection in the pool of water shows his face becoming indistinct. His heartbeat quickens as the shift spreads. The transformation feels inevitable, a force of nature that cannot be stopped. He looks down at his arms as they blur into shadow, his mind racing to find a solution before it's too late. The cavern pulses with energy. The whispers intensify, the shadows press closer, and the air feels suffocating. The voices, some pleading, others commanding, become deafening. He knows the time for indecision has passed. His body is no longer his own. With each second, the transformation accelerates. He must make a choice now, before the shadows claim him completely. In the final moment, he makes his decision. The choice will determine not only his fate, but the legacy of the Shadow Realm itself. He may choose to embrace the transformation, becoming one with the shadows, or resist until the very end. Perhaps in the heat of that moment, he discovers an unexpected third path, a way to break free of the shadow's grip while retaining the knowledge he's gained. Whatever he decides, the consequences are immediate and irreversible. The chamber, the shadows, and the man will never be the same. His form no longer cast light. Instead, he felt the world as a faint impression, a veil through which he moved unseen. He passed crowded streets where no one turned their head. The air held whispers only he could hear. It was a silent existence, detached from the laughter and warmth of those still bound to the light. In this state, he saw not faces but outlines, and not voices but vibrations. The world of the living now seemed distant, a dream fading in the wake of his transformation. His movements became a dance at the edge of reality. The living walked past him, their eyes unfocused. He followed, not knowing why. He touched the surface of a window and felt its coldness, but no reflection stared back at him. He hovered near his former home, watching shadows flicker through familiar rooms. The cost of merging with the shadows unfolded slowly. Every memory felt distant, every thought less distinct. He was not a man anymore, but an echo. News of his disappearance spread through the town. His name came up in whispered conversations. His friends, his family, searched at first. They wandered the edge of the forest, shouting his name into the trees. Over time, they stopped the search. Parties grew smaller, then vanished. A local storyteller spun his absence into another warning, feeding the forest's growing legend. The town, once skeptical, now looked at the woods with fresh fear. They told their children of the teacher who entered the shadows and never returned. If he had resisted, if he had found a way back, his return would have been no comfort. He would wake in the middle of the night, seeing forms just beyond the lamplight. He would walk through the market and feel eyes that weren't there. People noticed his unease. "You don't look well," they'd say. He tried to shake it off, but the shadows clung to him. Each day he struggled to appear normal. Those visions refused to fade. Normalcy proved impossible. The shadows had marked him, their presence unrelenting. Even under the noon sun he saw them, faint shapes shifting in his periphery. He heard whispers when there should have been silence. His reflection in store windows sometimes moved when he stood still. Others laughed at his unease, but he stopped mentioning it. The connection remained, a tether he couldn't cut. He began avoiding open spaces, staying close to bright lights, though they never kept the shadows completely at bay. The daylight no longer held comfort. The shadows were always there, waiting. The woods continued to draw the curious. Despite the warnings, despite the stories, there were always those who wanted to see for themselves. They ventured in with lanterns and maps, seeking proof of what they refused to believe. Some came back shaken, speaking of sounds and movements they couldn't explain. Others never returned at all. The forest kept its secrets, feeding the fear and fascination that made it untouchable. The townspeople built barriers and posted signs, but the shadows claimed who they wanted. The woods remained alive, breathing, waiting. The diary, once tucked safely in his bag, vanished. No one could say where it went. Some whispered that the shadows reclaimed it, their lure for the next explorer. Without the diary, no one could confirm his story. It became another myth, another tale to frighten children and tempt adventurers. Rumors surfaced occasionally. Someone claimed they saw pages of it in the old library basement. Another swore. It appeared on their doorstep one morning, only to vanish by nightfall. The cycle began again, pulling in a new soul to learn what the forest never forgot. Obsession had driven him deep into the forest. What began as a search for knowledge became a dangerous game. He had followed whispers and ignored warnings. Each step had seemed justified at the time. Now he saw how that same hunger had trapped him in a world he could not fully escape. The truth he had sought came with a price too steep to bear. Some secrets, he realized, were hidden not to protect them from discovery, but to protect the seeker from destruction. In his most desperate moment, he had been forced to decide. The path he chose did not simply end his journey, it altered the core of who he was. The shadows had not consumed him, but their touch lingered. His view of the world had changed, his sense of self no longer whole. What he gained in insight, he lost in clarity. He understood now that every step towards the unknown reshaped him. What he learned about the shadows also taught him about himself and the balance between curiosity and caution. What started as a desire for adventure had become something far darker. He had set out to uncover a mystery, never imagining how deeply it would consume him. The thrill of discovery turned into a relentless need for answers. Each clue he uncovered fed his obsession. He ignored the growing risks, blind to the signs that his journey had crossed a dangerous threshold. Adventure became obsession, and obsession became his undoing. The line between the two had always been thin, and he had failed to see it until it was too late. The shadows had taken something intangible but vital. They had stolen not just his identity, but his relationships. In the pursuit of truth, he had left behind those who cared for him. He had traded connection for isolation, love for the cold touch of the unknown. His absence weighed on those he once held dear. The empty chair at the table, the unanswered calls, they were reminders of what he had lost. His journey taught him that even the greatest discovery could not replace the warmth of human connection.